Hey guys, how's it going? Today I want to speak about the subject of what makes you creative. Well, let's talk about primarily, first of all, what makes me creative. For me, being creative and becoming creative and creating stuff starts from basically motivating myself to do it. So first thing that I need to do is basically try to have a healthy lifestyle and not let drama overtake what I am feeling in regular life, if that makes sense. Because if you're not aware of yourself, if you're not clean in your head, it's really hard to take advantage of that creativity that is inside. And that being said, of course, there's also the fact that you could basically also have a traumatic experience in whatever field that you're in, or emotionally, or family-wise, or other things, and you will probably also be able to be creative from that. But in order to do that, you need to still have a clean and healthy lifestyle. Because if you're too busy doing things that are not very healthy for you, it's kind of hard to keep that creativity. But now you're going to tell me that there's a lot of artists that are pretty crazy and they create a lot. But then you got to also understand that, okay, they maybe created something, but how many of these artists who are always on drugs or under the influence of alcohol or whatever influence they have they actually created, if that makes sense? Usually the people who stay a really long time creating are people who are kind of sane, if that makes sense, you know? There's so many artists, I don't want to name any, but they might have had some one-hit wonders, or they were creative at some time, or they even started as kids and then they keep on like doing stuff as adults. But the more they progress as adults, the more their drugs or the alcohol and stuff like that kind of gets in the way, and they're not able to keep on producing and keep on being creative in the right way. Maybe they're trying to, but they're just too clouded by whatever's in their head. So that being said, I think one thing that you need to do is don't wait for the creativity to come. If, let's say, you want to write a script, you want to do a short film, or you just want to learn a new song, or just dance, or whatever it is, you kind of have to push yourself, because sadly enough, the human body, human beings, we just have a tendency to be at rest, to be lazy, if you want to know the truth. We're just lazy. You can see it by the way that the body reacts. It always wants to be efficient. So that means that if you sit a lot, well, some muscles in your legs and stuff like that will shorten. If you don't, if you do more, then your muscles will stretch and your muscles will muscle. And then also that's why people have posture problems and stuff like that, because basically the body tries to be at rest and be the most efficient. And if it decides that it doesn't need that muscle, or it doesn't need that range of flexibility or whatever, it just kind of gives up. I think it's the same with the brain. If you don't really have to use it, well, it doesn't develop, and it takes time to tell the brain, okay, well, I really, really need this. That's why if you study something for school and then you just never reopen that book after the test, yeah, you might have gotten an A, but it doesn't mean that you're gonna actually know the stuff, because sometimes it takes years to really, really be able to get it into your head and for it to be second nature, if that makes sense. So, that being said, creativity can come in spurs, but most of the time I think you just kind of have to say, look, my goal is to write this thing, or to do this movie, or to learn this dance, or whatever it is, and you just sit down or stand up if you have to dance, and you basically memorize your dance moves, or you basically just do. You just write. You just start writing. If you don't know what to do, well, you just keep on writing. It's kind of like in the book The Artist's Way that I did a couple of years ago, where you have to do journals in the morning. If you don't know what to write, you just keep on writing the same thing. Like, I don't know what to write, I don't know what to write, I don't know what to write. And eventually the I don't know what to write becomes, okay, now I know exactly what I'm saying, and now I'm going to talk to you about this. And it's kind of like what I'm doing with these vlogs in some way, is that I don't really know exactly what I'm going to talk about, because it's improvised. I know the subject, and then it's usually things that I've already studied and stuff like that. But then later on, I have to kind of like improvise how I'm going to make it into a 10-minute topic, because that's the limit that Instagram gives you on videos. So it has to be 10 minutes or less. And that's my way of forcing myself, or not really forcing myself, but it's my way of keeping that creativity going, because primarily for me, I'm an actor, right? So if I'm not able to express myself on a daily basis, I feel kind of constrained. And unfortunately, for people who are actors but not necessarily working actors in shows and stuff like that, you might be going to auditions for commercials and stuff like that, but you got to be honest, it's not really going to give you any creativity, if that makes sense. You're kind of creative in some way, but even sometimes like being hired by someone else to do their vision can be creative, but you might even be more creative by doing your own thing, if that makes sense. And that being said, of course, sometimes you can get hired by someone else and they give you a character that you never thought you could pull, and then you do, and that's also creative in that own way, because you might discover some things about yourself. But that's another subject. But again, that being said, creativity doesn't come easily, and usually comes with a lot of obsession and a lot of refining, and a lot of other people behind those ideas that you don't even realize, because it can be life circumstances that are happening to you that only you know how to describe, that you can put in your creativity. Or it can be also the fact that you're asking advice from X, Y, and Z in order to really figure out what's that creativity within the idea is. Because everybody has ideas, and everybody is actually creative. Because if you really look at it, what do kids do most of the time? They're drawing, they're inventing stories, they're playing. Now with time, as adults, for some reason we forget that, and we make things unenjoyable in some way, if that makes sense. Because if you really think about it, okay, as a kid, no matter what location you're in, whether you have toys or not, you can always find a way to basically occupy yourself, and you make it into a game. And if there's another kid around or whatever, you just start interacting with them. And then as adults, sometimes you could be, I don't know, waiting for a plane or waiting for a bus or whatever, and you're there for 45 minutes and all you do is stay quiet and sit in your seat, and you don't just stare. Whereas a kid would probably have played, moved, just lived in some way. So that's for me, creativity is trying to find that way of basically finding that creativity again, finding a way to emphasize that playfulness and really talk about something or express yourself on a subject or a sport or whatever in a way that basically makes you happy, if that makes sense. But that's all I have to say on the subject. Have a great day, and talk to you soon.